everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am your host, Perry, and with me this week is not Swan, but he also is being replaced by not one, not two, but three different co-hosts for this week, this episode. It's the guys from Tell Me I'm Wrong, Josh, Joe, Ryan. Welcome to the show, guys.
What's up? It took all three of us to fill his shoes, and so we are glad we could do that.
Those big swan feet. Is that what you call them? Do you call them feet?
Well, Perry really,
I guess so.
Perry really just wanted Josh and Ryan, but he couldn't figure out a way to just ask them.
Okay, hold on. We need to talk. We need to talk about something. I owe Joe an apology.
Oh gosh,
because after listening
this
back,
is rare. People don't usually apologize to me.
Well, I have a guilty conscience, and after listening back to the episode that I was on of Tell Me I'm Wrong, I just spent the entire time going, I was way too hard on Joe. I felt so bad about it.
The power hours be good, you all.
I don't disagree.
I'm telling you, CrossFitters across the nation are making it right now.
Look,
they're wearing their tight little shorts and grunting and making power hours.
And 46 grams of protein.
Yeah, Joe's cocktail. If we made up ridiculous cocktails on this episode of the podcast, Joe's was so atrocious. Had so much protein in it that it was.
This is coming from the man who made one that had turkey skin, crust, brown gravy, and other stuff that just make me want to partially throw up in my mouth a little bit. So I don't know that you have room to criticize.
Ryan, our friend Ryan here, ended up winning that episode, but Joe's is the only cocktail that got some merch out of it. So
that's true.
I think Joe ultimately
his was
won
just the most ridiculous, and so we took that merch direction. Yeah. If anybody's looking for an entrance to our show, that would be a great episode.
It is.
I don't remember what it was called. Power Hour?
Meat stick on the side.
Yeah,
Meat stick on the side. Man, we got some good names.
That's part of my drink. You got a beef stick on the side of your cocktail.
And that was episode 30, right?
20. We just crossed 30.
Oh, yeah, that's
just
right.
hit 30.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You guys, this happened with me, too. As soon as you start crossing those thresholds of, quote-unquote anniversary episodes, it's like, where did all this time go? How did this happen? I mean, this is episode 156 of my show? I just can't.
I would say you've been podcasting since the dark ages.
It's funny. I think it was 2 years ago at Bourbon and Beyond. It was like the presser for Bourbon and Beyond the day before the festival started. I ran into a guy named Mark Gillespie, who runs probably the longest running whiskey podcast. It's called Whiskey Cast. And he was like,
clever.
I've not just been doing bourbon podcasting for the longest. I've basically been doing podcasting for about the longest as well. Because literally, he has been doing it for 10 plus years. And
back when nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
Anytime, if you find anybody who's been podcasting before 2009, then those are the original people with RSS feeds.
I don't even have that much to talk about.
Yeah. And I just kind of stood there in awe and was like, oh, I don't exist without you. This show doesn't exist without you. There is
the Trailblazers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some level of notoriety where I just had to be I had to step back out of my own bubble for a second and just be like, okay, small fish, big pond right now. But
I was going to say, how many episodes are we talking about for a 10-year-old podcast?
Let me look.
1,000?
I think so. Honestly, I think so.
I guess it depends on how often he posts.
No, he does weekly. But
wow.
he's been called by
we're the Tradio of podcast networks.
Where's the feed? Today he published episode 848.
Wow.
Hey, that could be a potential episode.
Well,
don't give it away.
I don't think we have 848 debates.
He's been called the NPR of whiskey.
Oh,
so
that's a high compliment.
So I mean, he's got plenty of
souffle
notoriety behind him, and he's got plenty to warrant that title, I guess. But anyway,
the car talk of fine spirits.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to. They don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what
Yeah.
an analogous version of our show
By
is.
by episode 850,
that
you guys
the
are
Beavis
like.
and Butthead of podcasting.
By the time you guys get to episode 850, it's like, who would win, a bee or a wasp? Or
Yeah. In a cooking competition.
who would win, a dust bunny or a real bunny?
Well,
Who makes a better
I guarantee
souffle?
Gordon Ramsay drinks bourbon. You can't tell me that man does not drink bourbon.
I bet you he's more of a Scotch drinker.
I bet he likes
Yeah.
good bourbon too.
Considering he's from Scotland.
Yeah. But I'm sure he's dabbled in bourbon. Anyway, speaking of bourbon,
Oh wait, is this a bourbon?
I don't know anymore. But it's
only in the name.
We did get a review a few weeks back where the guy said, or no, what did he say? Oh, he said, guys, please learn to focus. I was like,
Nope,
what are you
we
doing?
We are
refuse.
not. You are not the people to bring on for that.
I was going to say, you got that review and then you invited us on your podcast?
It took us 25
Yeah,
minutes.
that's like telling Matt Jones to stick to
It took us
sports.
25 minutes to get into our topic the other day, to the point we both went, "What was our topic?"
So we normally start the show off with Flying Blind, where I blind the co-hosts or co-host with something. But I figured it'd be more fun to kind of do a blind flight throughout the episode. So we've got 3 different bourbons in front of us. Yes, they are bourbons. They're not whiskeys or rye whiskeys or anything. All 3, I can confirm, are indeed bourbons.
We'll take your word for it.
So I haven't done anything to alter or
It looks and smells like bourbon.
Yes.
That's all I can
well,
confirm.
that can be the most deceiving, especially if. Never mind, doesn't matter. We'll be going through this flight throughout the episode, but I also like to ask people, what have you been drinking recently?
I'll go.
Thank you, Ryan.
Since no one else
Thank you,
jumped
Ryan.
in. I'm always that kid in class who volunteers to go
The
first.
Hermione of the group.
Yeah,
Josh, does
that's
that
me.
surprise you?
No, not a
I
bit.
didn't think so.
I don't think anybody on this show is surprised by that. No, I've been drinking some Four Roses small batch lately.
Oh.
It was convenient where I think I was at Target and I was like, you know what, that looks good. So I got that. I'm usually a bullet person, but just wanted to change it up a little bit, and I've been genuinely enjoying it.
Well, did you know Bullet actually sources their bourbon from Four Roses?
Really?
They don't have anything on the
know
market right now that is their own distillate. Everything has been sourced, and they actually have modeled their distillation and aging process off of what Four Roses does.
Well, I guess I'm on brand then.
There you go.
I was going to say, I just cracked open a brand new bottle of Eagle Rare. So I've been mostly drinking on that one. I've been just having a little bit of bourbon. But the thing I've been drinking the most is just some Buffalo Trace bourbon cream, if I'm going to be completely honest. It's the holiday season.
It's a holiday season, and it's also 2020.
It is.
Listen, it's in my coffee on the weekends, not during the week if my boss is listening. And
I only put mine
it's
in
been
coffee
home.
during the week, not on the weekends.
drinking it on ice, just on some ice there. It's the perfect holiday drink for me. I just need a little bourbon cream in my life.
I've been sipping on 2. The one that's in my decanter that I just kind of do a quick grab is Basil Hayden's. It's one of my favorites. And then
I hear Perry loves that on the rocks.
Nope. No, I don't.
Yes.
Hashtag fake news.
And when we bought our house in October, and we moved in that day, this guy had a bunch of bottles of bourbon he was carrying out, and he had a couple bottles of Pappy and other things. And I said, "Oh, are you going to give me one of those since I bought your house? I mean, I just gave you a lot of money." And he looks and he goes, "Yeah, you can have one of these bottles." And I was like, "What?" So he pulls out this bottle with this like pinkish orange lid on it, and I'm like, holy crap, this dude's about to give me some fruity wine that I don't. He's like, this is a couple friends of mine made this. He gave us a whole bottle of Pinhook.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So Josh was actually there. We broke into that the other night, and
Nice.
I've been drinking on that a lot. So
Pinhook has been
very good.
like surprising for me. And
I never had it until this. So
yeah, they recently have been doing all of their distillation and aging at Castle and Key. And funny enough, Castle and Key is one of the. Where the heck is that bottle? I don't know where it is. I have too many bottles around, but
It's a good problem.
Yeah, something like that. Lucy's real happy about it. So
Yeah, I bet.
so Castle and Key actually just put out their first whiskey this past weekend. It was a rye, and so I wasn't able to make it up, but I had a buddy who grabbed a bottle. He's a listener of the show as well. Shout out Ian.
Shout out.
He grabbed a bottle for me, and I cracked it open on Saturday, which was also Repeal Day. And I'll talk about Repeal Day here in a second because it was a wildly different yet super cool day for me. But anyway, so good, man. Castle and Key they absolutely did something special with it, and we could talk about the forgotten legacy of Marianne Eves in regards to that distillery on another episode.
There's been a lot of anticipation for that.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it.
Well, I listened last week, and I loved the conversation on the label, which made me go look it up, and I kind of had the same feelings.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the label. I think it's
I think this may be where we all differ. It is a little busy, but I like that it's different than most bourbons on the market.
I assume that was what they were going for.
yeah.
But it looks like a $15 bottle of wine at Total Wine, to be entirely honest. That's part of the problem.
Exactly.
I think it's extremely off-brand for them. Mm-hmm. They've always had such a clean look in their packaging. Everything has been super well defined, and this is just.
I use the word ostentatious.
Yeah, I don't.
You would use that word. There's nothing that just surprises me less than you using the word ostentatious.
Listen, I think it's the right word for this situation.
And correct usage, so
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Ryan.
It's ostentatious.
I just while it is really good, Marianne Eves, their former master distiller, is a friend of mine and a friend of the show, and the marketing team has just kind of totally erased her from the story behind how this product was created. And I reached out to Marianne on Saturday and said that I was kind of disappointed with how this was approached, and she was like, well, even if they had started to include me in the marketing for it, I would have asked them not to. I was like, well, fair enough, but you did kind of make all the whiskey that's currently sitting in their rick houses right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it makes sense, and I would understand that coming from her perspective, but at the same time, especially for people who've been looking forward to it and tracking what they've been doing.
yeah,
Well, like anybody who enjoys bourbon, particularly in our area.
I was going to say, if you're a bourbon drinker and you live anywhere close to Lexington, you've been following Castle and Key for a long time.
That's the one place my wife has wanted to go since the pandemic hit, and we've not been able to go to. So
it's beautiful. I absolutely love going there, and
I have a few friends that got married there. It was,
nice.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to go there, and back when she was working for Castle and Key, I got to interview Marianne in the offices and got to see like all of her little laboratory space and whatnot, and it was a very cool experience. But I'm excited. I am very genuinely excited for this product, but I'm also just reservedly going, well, Marianne was there too. Like,
Yeah, just like denying her existence.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to enjoy when you already have a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah,
So
that's not
Well put,
not
Josh. Well
inaccurate
put.
at all. So
Should we
let's drink some
bourbon?
bourbon, please. And while we're doing that too,
when you all say some bourbon, that doesn't describe the amount of bourbon he sent, and I've already pulled all my glasses. So I made, they're. Yeah,
Joe's going into work late
tonight.
tomorrow.
I gotta be at work at
he
7
gets
a.m.,
up.
which means I wake up at 5:30 to get me and the baby out the door. So it's gonna be fun.
Yay! Hey, I told you after the fact that you didn't have to pour everything that I gave you, but
Yeah, it doesn't work when I've already done it.
there were no instructions with the samples, so
If
we
you,
just
if you
poured.
didn't
bag of
know who
bourbon.
Perry was, this would look the most sketch thing in the world because
Yep.
it's literally like a a vial of like something you see in a horror movie, like an evil scientist would send you of
It
poison.
kind of looks like
add.
what you would put your enemy's blood in.
Josh dropped it off at my house, and I was like, Josh, you have to put it on the back porch. All I need is some kids to run up on my porch and see bourbon, steal it, chug it, and die.
What's this dark thing?
Yeah, that looks good.
So I like I said, I gave you guys a blind flight. I love doing these, and it's not anything that I have gotten to do in a long time. It just, for one reason or another. But I figured that, this was the perfect opportunity to sample out some things that I wanted to share, of course, because that's one of my favorite parts about drinking bourbon is getting to share it with other people. We'll go through it.
Are we starting with
Yeah,
number
we'll go
one?
left to right. We'll go the traditional Greek method.
Alrighty.
Is that the Greek method? I don't know.
Greek.
The Greeks invented a lot of things. I don't know if numbers are one of them.
That is bourbon.
Ryan's expert opinion.
That's about as complex as my palate gets.
It's very good.
And
Got some bite to it.
I told these guys beforehand too. I didn't expect them to go through like tasting notes and everything. It's mostly just based on like, Joe, you good, man?
Y'all know what really sucks. Recording a podcast where you drink bourbon and you forget you have a small cut on your lip until after you take the first sip of bourbon.
That's what the face was.
I thought Joe just enjoyed the bourbon so much he ascended to a higher
I thought
plane.
so.
I mean, it
too.
was very good, but I've also... Ooh, I'm about to drink on the right side of my mouth.
This sounds like some sort of weird idiom.
does.
Drinking on the right side of my mouth.
I didn't like that bourbon on the wrong side of my mouth, so we'll try this. We'll try this
All
other
right,
side.
I'm gonna. You can make fun of me as I try to actually say some real things about this bourbon.
We will.
It tastes
We will.
very floral.
Let me sip.
I mean, I could be.
Let me
completely
sip. Let me
incorrect.
sip it again because I was focused.
Okay.
I was
Specifically, what kind of like floral
Is it like
flowers are we talking?
wildflowers, lilies, tulips, chrysanthemums?
It tastes. I don't know. It gets some sharpness on
I
there.
kind of taste chocolate.
with this one.
But also, people say they taste stuff in bourbon. I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, I never taste any of it.
With this one, I typically kind of am going towards more of the standard bourbon flavors, just caramel, vanilla. I do get quite a bit of chocolate on it too. I think that the
Right, I'm not wrong.
floral. I wasn't going to tell you were wrong. Is that?
Well, you can. We do it every week.
Oh, he said it.
Can't believe nobody stood up and cheered. Anyway, I totally get the floral notes too, though. Like I think that they're kind of layered on top of some of these.
Yeah, it's definitely the finish.
and it's definitely layered on top of some of the darker notes that come through with this one.
I'd say purely from taste, I get the straight, like, mostly caramel flavor.
Yeah.
However, with the initial smell, I do get that floral, like what Ryan was saying. So I guess I'm just trying to say everybody's right.
It's very smooth. Like the first sip was like, I was like, ugh. Because that first sip you take of any bourbon is always like,
I was gonna say
a wall
the
up.
first sip is the acclamation sip,
You're like,
as I learned
oh,
on one of my
God,
many bourbon
why do I
tours.
like this? And then your second sip, you're like, oh, okay, I remember why I like it now. But
the warmth in the chest comes on the third sip.
The Kentucky hug.
Ryan spent some time on Wikipedia before he got
can
on
I
this
tell a
podcast.
quick story about?
No, I just drink bourbon.
Can I tell a quick story about warming your chest?
I don't think so.
No,
I'm gonna allow
it involves bourbon. It involves.
I'm
bourbon.
going to allow it.
So, my friend,
Very show.
I went to college at Eastern, and one of the guys I grew up with, his name was his name was Eric, and for his bachelor party, we decided we were going to go camping, so we hiked into the gorge and camped. Now, coincidentally, this happened to be the week that the state parks were shut down, and no one was supposed to be in the gorge, so we literally got dropped off in a van at 10 o'clock at night and hiked into the gorge by ourselves. Not our finest moment. We also
not your
went
best
in
decision.
March, and the lows were 26 and 27. So it was very cold. So the last night
you broke out the bourbon.
we had 6 dudes sleeping in one tent purely for warmth. But my friend Eric, he's never drank. He had some family issues, and because of that, he didn't want to drink. But we're sitting around the campfire one night, and we're all having fun, and he's talking about being cold, and we're like, Eric, just try this. It'll warm you up. And he didn't believe it, but he decided since he was with his buddies, he would have his first and last sip of bourbon ever, which is a very cool moment to experience with him. But he drank, he took a sip, and all of a sudden was like, my chest is on fire. And I was like, see, but you're warm.
That's the same night that he found out that he had acid reflux that he always had to go to the hospital for.
Yes. The best part of the trip was 2 of the guys we went with brought hammocks because they didn't look at the weather. So one guy just got up and got in our tent that night, but the other guy refused. I guess he was trying to be all hard and everything else. But he also didn't bring a sleeping bag. He just packed a comforter.
Oh my god!
So he
was
camps like I do.
Basically, yeah. Harry, if you ever get an opportunity to go camping, Ryan, either one of you, take Josh strictly for comedic value because he is the worst camper ever. Literally, the first he's like, I brought a tent. Oh, cool. What are you sleeping on?
Did you sleep on the ground?
Well, okay. In my defense, I brought a sleeping bag. However, I did not know we were going to be at like a campsite that had gravel on the ground, and so
Your tent was on grass.
I don't recall that part. I just recall being very uncomfortable. I also happened to completely destroy my back right before that trip.
This was the best part. He could not move around the campsite, and the rest of us were like doo, all buzzed all the time. And there's Josh.
So the only time I felt comfortable the whole week was when we went to the lake and I drank bad beer for hours and just floated in the lake. That's like the only time I felt comfortable.
That lake trip is Josh and I's yearly spa visit.
Mm-hmm.
We go do mud baths together, and
yeah, it's great.
Brian and I used to go to church together.
Yeah.
So did me and Josh.
But Joe was making fun of people Joe was making fun of.
I've been to church with everyone on this show.
That's true.
Wild.
Joe was making fun of people bringing hammocks, but Joe always sleeps in a hammock when we go camping.
I did. I created Shantytown last year.
Yeah, he calls it Shantytown.
In the summer, that makes sense.
It's also August.
When yeah, because then you're cool. But yeah,
man, that was the best trip. That woman beside us was so high, and this woman woke up at like 3 a.m. Yeah, no, Josh was there. This woman beside us woke up at like 3 a.m. and just started screaming, "What the F? What the F?" and just screamed that for like 5 minutes straight. And this dude was like, "Can you stop? My kids are asleep," and all this. And she kept going. And finally, I was like, "Shut the F up!" And she still kept going. And then the dude went over and threatened to punch her in the face, and she didn't stop. It was this older woman too.
What is
and then
this
they were
story?
smoking weed at like 7:45 in the morning the next morning. Just like
we always have odd things happen when we take this camping trip. It's an annual trip.
No, you didn't need to finish that sentence. You and Joe always have odd things happen.
This is true.
And then tell the stories on our show.
If you spend time with me, funny bad things are going to happen to me and or you, and you are guaranteed to get good stories, but there's a chance someone may get hurt.
Yeah,
and it's usually Joe.
At our last camping trip in 2019, I had my little sleeping arrangement, which included, I might add, an air mattress, a sleeping bag, and a blanket.
He brought the
I came prepared.
Complete package.
I came prepared, and so I was sharing a tent, and Joe and his wife were in that tent too. And at one point, we heard something rummaging around out in all of our food that was clearly some sort of creature. So me and Rachel, Joe's wife, or as we on our podcast we call her his current wife. You'd have to listen to get the bit, but so Rachel and I wake up and we're like, "What do we do?" Wake up Joe. That's like the only answer. So we wake up Joe. Joe gets out and he goes, it's a possum.
Yeah, like what do you want him to do?
What do I
He's
do?
just looking for food. Like leave him alone.
Scare it.
So he gets out and he tries to scare it off, and the possum just like does not budge. He's just looking at Joe.
I
making
shine my
noises.
flashlight on it, and it's literally like I'm elk spotting. Like he just like freezes and looks at me, which I was like, he just stole my soul. I'm pretty sure I lost my soul to this possum.
So then Joe tried to toss something at it to scare it off.
I threw a log at it and hit it.
Oh, Joe.
and it screamed like an adult woman.
It screamed like an adult woman. It was the most
Scared
horrifying thing
scared
I've
the
ever
piss
heard.
out of me. Like, for real, I think I peed a little bit.
So
I
was the
thought I hit
possum the thing that was screaming, "What the F"?
No, that was the year before. That was the year.
I think it was the same possum.
That was the year that before this woman started screaming, I'm asleep in my shanty. So I got a Eno, and then I've got like hammocks covering, or not hammocks, but tarps covering me, so in case it rains, I'm good. And I'm asleep in the hammock. I'm just super drunk. We broke out the moonshine at like 10 o'clock and just started pounding it. But I'm drunk. I'm laying in bed sleeping, and all of a sudden someone's like tapping me on the shoulder, and I roll over and it's my wife, and I'm like, what? And she goes, the air mattress deflated. And I didn't know what else to do, so I said, what do you want me to do about it? And she's like,
Joe,
well, it's out of air. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what else to do, so I literally just opened my hammock up. Like, come on in, crawl in. Like, there's nothing I could do. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, go to bed.
You could have like gotten the air pump out and helped.
It would have
her.
woke up the entire campsite.
Yeah, exactly.
Our pump was so loud.
They
and
always
it probably
are.
woke up the F woman early.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think everybody was gonna be up that night anyway, so it probably would have been just fine.
Oh, that was the best, man. She was that dude. That dad he was so nice the first time, and she kept going, and he was like, "I'm gonna punch you in the effing face if you don't stop." And she was like, and just silence. Okay, so
and
now
Joe
we've
are
taken
normal
over your
people, I promise.
podcast, Perry.
So sample number 2.
Are you gonna tell us what one was?
No, we're gonna. So what we'll
Oh.
do is we'll drink through everything, and then we'll rank them, and then I'll tell you what each one was.
Joe just finished it.
Yeah,
so
I saw
just
that.
finished one.
Let's rock and roll.
I lost my little buffer.
The second one tastes like dessert.
This one's darker, I feel like.
I love the smell.
Yes, this does. I do taste like it's very sweet smelling. I agree with Ryan.
smells like straight cake.
I love cake. Quick, what's
Hey,
your
Joe, why
favorite
don't
cake?
Bourbon is my cake. So
See, if this were our show, that would be
that would be the episode title.
We have a friend who
I-
makes a bourbon banana pudding. That's very good.
Ooh.
Yes, it's very good.
This is true.
It's
I was going to
it's
say
a
I
lot of
actually have an
bourbon.
answer to. I actually have an answer to favorite cake. So my grandmother every year, for my birthday, makes me a cake.
That pause was
This is
weird.
not an answer,
That
this is a
pause
story.
was weird, Josh.
Yeah,
I've answered my favorite cake.
Yeah, I think
so
you,
my
I think you
grandma.
paused at the wrong point there, bud.
Anyways, my grandmother every year for my birthday makes me a cake that it's like chocolate, caramel, whipped cream sort of deal. I don't know what all's in it. Heath bar. And it's technically called Better Than Sex Cake, but she's incredibly uncomfortable with that, so she calls it Better Than Paul Newman Cake, which
Oh my gosh.
I'm curious what her complicated
Does that
thoughts
mean
about
she
Paul
wants
Newman
to have
are.
sex with Paul?
I need the thought process. I need this written down. Oh my gosh, that is the best.
Listen. So back to the intricate flavors of this delicious bourbon. So I got the very big dessert notes on the smell, but once I tasted it, I didn't quite get that.
I had to take a sip of water to kind of cleanse the palate, as it were.
This is not my water podcast.
Bourbon's made of water.
That's true.
It's got water.
It's just dirty grain water. Yeah. I mean, the color comes from the dirty barrel that it sits in.
It's not dirty.
It is. It's charred.
Does that
Charred
constitute
and
dirty,
are
though?
very different things.
If I charred your floor, would you say that your floor is dirty?
No, if I walk into somebody's burned house and just immediately go, man, it is dirty in here. Like I just
But you wouldn't say it was clean.
Hold on.
But you wouldn't.
Anybody who walks into a house that has been caught on fire and says it is really dirty in here needs to seriously assess their life choices. That is a level of elitism that cannot be matched, and that is why America hates poor people. Like,
Oh man, how did we get this far down?
I'm just a very big Talking Heads fan. So anytime I see a house that's burning down, I get excited.
Y'all, I was just trying to be silly, and y'all try to turn it into something serious.
Listen,
and
Joe and I came on this podcast to be serious bourbon aficionados.
Yeah, as you tell your story about your grandmother's cake and Joe throwing a log at a possum.
Perry knew what he was getting into. When he
I 100%
Representing
knew what
us
I was
well.
getting. I don't know if the listeners knew what we were getting into.
They did not.
They do. And if this doesn't sell them on why they should listen to Tell Me I'm Wrong.
The sad thing is, I think we've pretty much represented our show very well. So if you like any of it, there's more.
I feel like I should have brought a debate topic to the table, but, I don't do that as well as I do drinking bourbon.
We don't do it very well either.
Well, you did because you gave us 3 bourbons that we can debate.
Well,
true.
that's
perfect.
That's true. You know what? I think somewhere in the back of my mind that is that's kind of where I was kind of justifying how to, what I was doing with this. So thanks for reminding me, Josh, that
you don't have to justify anything when you have 155
We give no
episodes.
justification on our podcast, and we
don't
people
justify
probably
anything, and we're
deserve
only 30 episodes
justifications.
in. All right, so what do you guys think? One or two? So far, I think I'm leaning 2.
I think I like one more.
I was going to say, I like one more.
One was smooth. One was so smooth.
One tastes more like a typical like when I think of bourbon, like those flavors come up.
What's good?
2
It tastes
tastes
like
very
bourbon.
atypical. Like I feel like it's not a normal. I don't know.
two is a little bit more unique, I would say. I totally agree with you, Ryan. But
I like it
yeah,
though. At the moment, I do like 2. I like both
yeah.
though.
One is very kind of stock standard. This is what I expect from bourbon. But 2 is very much its own beast. So
It's very chocolatey.
I've drank a lot of bourbon very fast.
we're losing Joe very
And
quickly.
I did not eat a lot of dinner.
So from this point on, you can just start your timer.
Joe's the kind of guy they have to wheel out of the distillery at the end of the tour.
I gotta make sure I don't get on Amazon later tonight, or we're gonna have some mysterious packages show
Turn on
up.
I'll text Rachel and tell her to turn on the parental blocks.
Don't get on the Brookstone website.
There it is.
I
You need
gotta
bourbon to buy.
I gotta find little
You would
references.
need to be
make.
drunk to buy some stuff off that website. Those moisture-resistant blankets are perfect for when you're drinking bourbon.
Sensual blankets, baby.
That's a different podcast.
I gotta keep making little references though, so people will go back and listen and be like, "What were they talking about?" And they'll go and listen to.
That's
Tell
a
Me
What
What
you
You-
need to
podcast.
do is
Guys,
you need to
that's
do
a-
like Tom Hart does with KSR. Just start working them into your normal
Yeah, exactly,
show.
exactly.
And then as we listen, we'll be like, "Oh, shout
hey,
out!"
That
hey,
is
he
a
gets
that is
it.
a podcast that no one else does. Is a Brookstone-based podcast where you just take a Brookstone item and you describe it.
There you go. That's
It
our
would
next
be
one.
fantastic.
It's some of the products you guys were talking about on last week's episode. Like they get into the review
Oh,
of it.
man.
Like
They don't even
Yeah,
have. They
we're
have
just
stuff
gonna
we
write our
didn't
own
even discuss.
descriptions.
That is like I had to look up what they were.
Joe, you're a wholesome boy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't describe them that way.
well, my current wife and I both worked at Brookstone simultaneously, so we are
true.
foremost experts on
But
that.
that's not how you met.
All right, sample 3.
There we go.
Gonna need to get a palate cleanser from both.
I had to as well.
I made the mistake of not bringing any water into this room.
Yeah, well,
Just cleanse your
I'm
palate with
telling
more
you,
bourbon.
I'm gonna keep drinking this. My wife has been painting for Christmas stuff, and there's a cup of like dirty paint water.
oh no.
I'm so afraid that I'm gonna like reach over and just pick it up and take a big swig of it. But
Have y'all ever done those like the wine and painting places or whatever?
No.
yeah, like
I know
Tino's
it's super
Palette or
girly.
whatever. I went.
I
once.
went because it was an office thing. Like they
That's
decided
exactly
to do
why
it.
I went.
And I was like, it wasn't great. But one of the things they talked about was make sure you don't drink the paint water. Make sure you drink the drink that you have.
I went.
Joe, you
with-
definitely just sounded like you've been trying to hold on to this secret and you haven't had a good time to like.
no, it's not a secret. I
spill
mean, I
it,
gave the
and then as
paintings to
soon-
my wife, but I got hammered drunk because I did
lot of
not
your
want to go.
stories-
And we went to the pub beforehand, so I was already a little toasted. And then I just got there and just started downing some wine that I don't even really
You went
like.
to. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
I know because
Guys,
we went
I
to
missed
the same
the
place.
pub so much. That place was
I
so
actually
good.
liked the pub back in high school.
Oh yeah.
But It's just not convenient, and now it's gone.
We went. My wife and I used to go to TGI Fridays for dinner. Go there, order a drink of water. Realize we didn't want TGI Fridays, and truly wanted to pub and just get up and leave. I think we did that 3 or 4 times.
Why didn't you just start going to the
You
pub?
did that 3 or 4 times?
We would go. We'd be like, "We'll try Fridays," and we'd sit at the table and be like, "God, I really just want the pub." So we just get up and leave.
We'll try Fridays. You know what's on the menu.
I was going to say, Fridays is not surprising you. It's not, chef special tonight looks great.
I think I've successfully
Fridays.
never ate at a TGI Fridays in my life.
Chicken fried Brussels sprouts. This sounds.
I would say in high school, me and my buddy Matt Jordan, shout out, we'd go to TGI Fridays over by the Fayette Mall here in Lexington for NFL Sunday football, and we would sit at the bar, even though we were under 21. We were like 19 at the time. And we would just drink soda the whole time and pretend like we were cool guys at the bars. We were regulars, and we knew the bartenders. And
Oh my gosh,
we were friends with them.
you were regulars at TGI Fridays.
Listen.
I don't know if that's sad.
That's the
even,
saddest thing I've
funny,
ever
but
heard.
sad.
Is it sad? Is it sadder to be a regular at TGI Fridays or Applebee's?
Oh, Applebee's. We have a
Yeah.
Listen. I went to Applebee's one night with one of our friends. They got really cheap beer there. Like you
Well,
can get
yeah.
a tall boy at Applebee's for like $3.
That doesn't mean it's good.
I mean, but if you're just going to drink beer, that's all we did.
I don't trust anywhere that charges more for a Miller Lite than an LIT. Like, just not going.
Rachel and I were coming home from the car wash the other night. We had to drive past the only Applebee's left in Lexington. They were promoting 1 gallon LITs for $15. I was like, that is alcohol
that should be
poisoning
illegal.
to the max.
That
Like,
should
you are
literally be
dying if you
illegal.
drink a gallon of LIT.
Maybe,
The FDA needs to outlaw that.
guys, idea, milk gallon challenge with the gallon of LIT. Who's in?
In an hour?
Between like 6 people,
No, by yourself.
you would die.
One of my friends,
We would
one of my
all be
friends
in
from
the
college-
hospital.
Actually, he was
We
on
would
that
need to
camping
invite
trip.
an ER nurse.
He was on that camping trip. We went where my friend tried the bourbon, but we decided we wanted to go to Applebee's one night for cheddar biscuits, and we sat at the bar and just drank LITs for like an hour and a half, and had to call a cab to take us home because we both just.
Okay. The next debate topic. What's sadder, that story or Josh being a regular at TGI
And only drinking club soda.
don't
and only
watching
drinking
football.
soda?
I'll argue that mine is not sad because we only did it one time.
I don't know. That's a pretty sad time.
I mean, cheddar biscuits, man. Come on, that pulled me back in on the
Cheddar
Thanksgiving.
biscuits are
side
good.
plate.
It's the getting drunk on LITs and calling a cab from Applebee's.
two dudes at that.
I'll give you this. Applebee's appetizers are pretty fire. My dad's a big fan. Him and his.
I mean, if you're a fan of frozen appetizers,
yeah, he referees football, like college football, and his crew always, when he did high school football, would always go to Applebee's, whatever the local Applebee's was after the game, and get cheap happy hour appetizers. And he loves it so much that he said when he dies at his funeral, he wants to have Applebee's appetizers served.
No. Did he really say this?
Oh, he really said this. He also wants to be, like, his ashes to be buried under a tree. And he
Oh,
wants
I'm
us to
so
get the
happy
tree
you didn't
googly
say
eyes.
in an Applebee's to-go box.
Confession: I called Josh's dad the other day. I was so uncomfortable.
I'm just picturing a bunch of to-go boxes from Applebee's.
No, it's like those warming trays, but they have
On top of
Applebee's
the
signs in of them.
How quick would I get kicked out of an Applebee's if I walked in and I said, hey, my dad wants me to spread his ashes here. Where can I do it?
They probably have a section for that.
I was going to
Can I
say,
mix his ashes in your $1 LIT?
at old school Applebee's, they would have just hung it on the wall. They'd have been like, old
true.
urn? Cool, let's put it up next to this tennis racket.
That's the Malone's version of a famous person goes in and signs a menu.
They put it up there, but they would write Undertaker's urn beside it, so people would think Undertaker came in. And ate
Our
at
cool
Applebee's.
memorabilia.
No, I
right,
did.
so
I called
number
Josh's
3.
dad, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I was so nervous. He goes, "Hello, this is Bill," and I went, "Hello, Mr. Ballard."
Bill came over like in March so because we took like all of Brandy's furniture. we have a weird like anything Brandy's looking to get rid of, we basically just take. Like I think I'm on my second dresser from her, I have her car now. We have
Are you Brandy's Goodwill?
apparently.
Do you inherit her Tinder profile when she meets someone?
Yeah, right.
Perry and Lucy just have a drop box outside their house. She just like dumps stuff in it.
But it's
Do you
padlocked
give
and
her-
Brandy's
do you
only
give her
on
text
vacation.
Brandy
forms,
dropped
too?
off today.
Do you give her tax forms too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let me tell you, she is not in good shape.
Well, no, if she just keeps giving you all stuff, her income level's got to be real low.
I was gonna say before long she's gonna be walking in like it's a half price book, just being like, "Do y'all take DVDs?"
I have an unopened DVD set of the first season of Breaking Bad in my car. If anybody wants it,
How long has it been in your car?
like 3 months.
Wait, that's not as long as I was expecting.
Have you ever looked? So I used
Do you
to
know
be
when
really,
the first season of Breaking Bad came out?
Also, are you aware of Netflix?
Yes.
Like 2009.
Yeah, but it's also unopened. Like,
Okay,
Why?
I have a
I went
question.
through my deep.
What was the circumstances that led to you acquiring this?
Well,
there's a story here.
my brother gave it to me for Christmas, and it was
Christmas this year or a
Wait,
year ago?
No. Like legitimately 10 years ago. Okay? And that was absolutely at the time when
When it was
Netflix
valid.
was around and when Breaking Bad was also on Netflix. And he was like, "You've got to watch it. You've got to watch
but
Breaking
not
Bad."
everybody had Netflix in 2010. To give your brother the benefit of the doubt.
No,
I
that-
think it
that
was
is
only
fair.
DVD in 2010. I don't think they were streaming yet. I was still in college. I don't remember them streaming in 2010.
Well,
Maybe it wasn't quite 10 years ago. It might have been like 7 or 8.
when I was in college, it was streaming because that's how I watched it.
Same.
Anyway,
You watch
so
people's shit?
so he gave me this this DVD season set of Breaking Bad, and it sat in my parents' house for up until
10 years.
Basically, I mean up until about 3 months ago. And my mom was going, "Hey, I'm cleaning out your room. Do you want this?" And like there are a few other. I mean,
You
like
said
she was.
yes.
Well, look, I didn't want my mom to have to deal with it any
It was
longer.
guilt. It was guilt.
It was 100% guilt. I was like, I don't want my mom to have to, think about what do I need to do with this. So I took it, and I don't know what to do with it now. Like, I guess, is it worth selling it on eBay? Is it worth
It,
or-
it sounds like that's going to be your next giveaway on Patreon. You're going to sign it. Sign it.
It's
Heck,
signed by
if
me.
it'll help,
That's
if
like-
it'll help, have us sign it. It'll be the only signed copy by Tell Me I'm Wrong Bourbon Podcast collab.
I think we can convince
You can-
Joe to
you
sign
can
Bryan
auction it
Cranston's
off.
name.
Heck yeah, I will. You can auction it off.
I'll sign Aaron Paul.
I'll sign as Walter White. I don't even care. I've never even watched that show, and I know who that is.
I'm just
all
gonna
for it.
in all lowercase letters just write Hank. Not even the actor's name.
Just Hank. Gus.
Gus. This is signed by Gus. I was
Or
gonna say my
guy who rings the bell.
I love when people give you seasons of TV show. We talked about this on a recent episode about people giving you gift cards to chain
yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah,
because it's like
a single season would have
Yeah.
been a good idea for a bad gift.
Well, if you get a restaurant gift card, it's like, oh, you have to go to Applebee's in the next month. Like, you just don't have a choice. But one time I was given, you get these TV shows where they're like, I think you'll like the show, so I bought this for you. One time I got the second season of Homeland. I had never seen the first season.
That's the worst. You get season 2.
Yeah.
Season 2 is the worst season. We could discuss this on our show, but I'm pretty sure season 2 of any show is the worst season to pick because it's not the end, but it's also not the beginning.
So I
I
got
don't know. I
season.
think the second season of Psych is a lot better than the first season.
That's actually
Yeah,
very
but-
true.
Do you watch Psych? People actually watch that show?
Psych's awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing show.
Psych's amazing.
Never seen it.
Whatever.
I'm with
What's
Joe.
what's your
You,
discrepancy
you probably
here?
also like Big Bang Theory. So.
No,
No,
I don't like Big Bang Theory.
Perry is a man of taste. He's not watching
Yeah,
the
that
Big
watches
Bang Theory.
shows from the USA Network.
Yeah, ask me about my Rizzolian Isles tattoo.
Hey, we watch wrestling.
Yeah,
That's on
I was gonna say Joe and I watch USA Network every Monday.
I'm the
occasionally watch
only one on this
If
show
we
that can
weren't
claim
recording right
taste.
now, I'd be currently watching the USA Network.
Yeah, it's true. We watch Raw
you-
every week. It's important.
I was gonna say you actually pay extra.
That's the only. If that tells you anything, that is the only current television show I watch besides Chicago Fire and wrestling. That's it.
You
I do
watch
not watch
Chicago
any.
Fire?
We've
Oh
started
my
watching it. Okay, so I used to be a firefighter, and we started watching it when I did that, and I no longer do that, obviously. But it kind of became a thing where we just got into it and stuck with it.
You
But
got
that's
to
why we
finish.
started.
That's the show my parents watch.
Well, they're good people.
I mean,
I have to tell you a
no
story about
argument.
buying DVDs on buying seasons. If I'm telling too many stories, Perry, please, I'll stop.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening anymore. Honestly.
One
He
Black
can't keep up
Friday,
with our pace.
I was in Ohio with my family and my dad. I was going out Black Friday shopping with my cousin. My dad was like, here's I don't remember, $40 to if you need any money. Thinking I would buy food or something like that. I went to Best Buy and bought the entire series of Entourage. Like 5 seasons. That was out currently. I came home and I was like, look at what I got. And he's like, how did you buy
That
that? And I
reminds
was
me
like,
of when Michael Scott gets the per diem and he talks about he's going to buy a sweater.
yes. He's like, why? How did you get that? I was like, I bought it. And he's like, with what? I was like, with that money you gave me. He's like, you idiot. That was for if you ate. I didn't send you to go out and buy an entire TV series.
Hey, it paid off though because Joe's dog and daughter are named after characters from Entourage. So
He's not lying.
I think that is my favorite Joe story.
It's one of the best
And
things
I've heard
I've
a
ever
lot.
heard in my entire life.
He was legitimately upset that I spent all $40
Oh, man,
on
that's a good
Entourage
story.
DVDs.
Oh,
They were on sale on Black Friday for like $6 a piece.
Oh my gosh.
I think we should try bourbon number 3 after that one.
I would like
I've
to.
already been trying.
I would like to.
Because that's why. Why do you think I'm telling so many stories right now? I'm good.
We made a mistake bringing Joe here. We're safe on our own podcast, but then we go out in public and he acts a fool.
What these guys don't have in common with us, Perry, is I have a 2.5-year-old, so I really don't drink a lot of alcohol anymore,
Well,
except for maybe an occasional 1 glass of bourbon a night while I'm like playing PlayStation or whatever. So when I drink larger amounts, my tolerance is way down, and it just doesn't take much anymore.
see, Joe, I still make time for the finer things in life.
You also have a baby,
was
which
gonna
doesn't
we have
require
also
a
make
lot of
time for
attention.
podcasts.
I just
We
got
have- we
here.
have a
Daddy, what are you
7-week-old.
drinking? I want some. I want some. No,
Ooh.
this is for mommies and daddies only.
Yeah,
I want some.
Imagine,
go
imagine
ahead,
distilling Joe down into a child, and having that's why Joe can't drink anymore because his daughter's just telling him stories all day.
Well,
Yeah, but she's awesome, and you all can't deny that.
She's
a
the
cool
best.
baby.
No, she is awesome.
is she better than Gwen?
No, Gwen is Gwen
No,
is my
Gwen's
niece,
great.
and
They
Gwen's the
hung out
best.
one time, and they were having lightsaber duels with each other.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna say,
amazing.
the only time
best
they've ever
kids
hung
ever.
out, they just absolutely beat the hell out of Joe with some fake lightsabers.
The
It was
first
amazing.
time that Gwen came over to meet Eden, who's my baby, she kept looking at her and going, "Does she want a toy? Does she want to play?" And we were like, "No, Gwen, she's a newborn."
She's just a lump.
And she, as Gwen and Brandy were walking out the door, you could hear Gwen trailing off and saying, "Next time I'm going to teach her how to walk."
That sounds just like Gwen.
With the power
That's
move.
Gwenny. Yeah, but so
is
I'll,
Gwen.
on the topic of this is the last story before we get back to the bourbon, but
No, of course not.
on the topic of small children requesting alcohol in inappropriate times, my sister, she's my youngest sibling. When she was probably 3 or 4, I was in the grocery store at the Kroger on Romney Road that no longer exists here in Lexington, Kentucky.
It's gone.
R.I.P..
Man, that's a good Kroger.
R.I.P. indeed. Somebody once called that the divorced mom's Kroger.
That's where all the rich people live.
That's where all the rich people go. Yeah. Anyway,
It's
so
alimony Kroger.
so my mom took my sister to go grocery shopping, and she's going through the beer aisle. And she gets some like Budweiser or whatever, and my mom puts it in the cart and everything, and my sister Sarah looks at my mom and goes, "What's that, mommy?" She goes, well, it's beer. She goes, well, can I have some? My mom goes, no, that's adults. Only grown-ups can have it. And my sister proceeds to throw a tantrum in the Kroger because she can't have any beer and is very loudly screaming, but I like beer, Mom. Over and
good.
over and over. I like beer, Mom.
Mom
I
of the
like
year.
beer, Mom. And my poor mother she just thinks, oh, somebody from church is going to be in here right now. And I'm not going to be able to teach Sunday school anymore. But, yeah. Anyway.
I just call that good parenting, personally.
Hey, everything in moderation.
Well, I might not call it good. I might not call it good parenting if it was just Budweiser. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Raise your standards.
Yeah, Miller High Life, man.
My man.
Champagne of
Miller
beers.
High Life's a great beer.
I love Miller High Life.
Yeah,
You're talking to a man whose preferred beer is Miller Lite. I don't care.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You come over here, and if I ask you if you want a beer, you say yes. More than likely, it's going to be Miller High Life.
I just really thought you were going to stop there. You come over here if I ask you.
Yes,
And I was
sir.
like, well, I guess I'm not getting invited over there.
You guys want to come over sometime? I mean, yeah.
It appears Perry is the one who knocks.
There it is.
All right. So sample 3 out of 3 in this blind flight. What do you guys think
We're
about
drinking bourbon?
This one tastes very familiar to me.
it? Interesting.
Like I feel like I've had it before. So we have
I'm not a huge
at least
fan.
the three of us, and I think Perry may have met him somewhere along the way. I have a friend named Matt Pugh, and him and his wife Mary have an incredible bourbon selection. And I swear I have had this at their home.
what
it
do you
is-
think this is, Josh?
Yeah,
So that's the
hazard a
problem. Is
guess.
generally Matt just pours it and I drink it.
Yeah,
and I
well,
don't know what it is.
that's what happens when you
That
come over
is how
here
it
too.
works at Matt's
But
house.
I've
Matt's house is
absolutely
the
had
best.
He does pour, and then he talks a lot afterwards. But usually I'm still
Yeah,
trying
so-
to drink the bourbon he poured, and he'll be like, "So what do you think?" I'm like, "Oh, it's good. It's bourbon."
Matt and I would have a really good time together.
Yeah.
Yes, you would.
Yeah. Just dueling bourbon pours.
Sometime all of us need to go over to
Yes,
Matt's
please.
house.
Yes, please.
That's the only time I've ever had absinthe in my life.
Oh, I love absinthe. dude.
Absinthe is awesome.
He introduced me to port.
Yeah. And
No, that wasn't Matt. That was
Luke.
Luke. Yeah, Luke was the one who was drinking
Well,
the port wine.
Luke via Matt.
So sample number 3.
But anyways, what I was
I
getting
don't.
at.
I don't really like 3 that much. I don't know
really.
why.
I won't say it's my favorite. I still prefer number 1 to number 2.
I think
and
I've
number
come
3.
back around, and I'm now on 1 as well.
But this
To
is
me, that tastes
probably
like
my
a
second.
rye.
This is
I
probably
know
my
you said it
s-
wasn't a rye.
Yeah,
It's not a rye.
definitely not.
No, they're all 3 bourbons.
This is probably my second favorite of the 3, but it's to me fairly smooth.
it has. I don't know. There's some flavor in there that is overriding everything else, and it's not my favorite for some reason. I don't know. I mean, again, I have no palate. I don't have any reasons why. I just prefer the other 2.
I think I like 1, 3, 2.
I agree with Joe.
I would probably go 1, 2, 3.
I think I might also go 1, 2, 3.
I like 1 is just like I'm drinking bourbon. 2 is like, oh, that's an interesting flavor. And 3, I don't know. There's something off about it.
You know,
Yeah.
now that I'm several sips in, I'm starting to turn on it, which is very not common. I don't think.
Well, and also, a side note, I actually started drinking 3 way before you guys started drinking 3.
You've
So
had
I
more
am
time
about
with it.
I am about 4 sips in rather than 1 or 2.
first,
Go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say first sip tasted very familiar.
It
Second
has a
sip,
lot more bite than the others.
I really
too.
enjoyed, and somewhere
I feel
around the
like.
third and the fourth, it is just I don't know. It might bounce back down.
Well,
It sits in the back of the throat a little bit.
I will say 3 is the highest
That's what
proof.
she said.
Joe,
3 is the highest proof, so that makes sense. I'm gonna do 1 more sip.
I'm trying to figure out how to reveal these.
By name.
Well,
well, I will say your listeners will be like, "Oh yeah, they're idiots."
Yeah.
While
No,
our reaction to you revealing them will be like, "Oh yes, of course."
well, why, yes.
we-
Yeah, we'll just play it off.
The economy.
We're very smart and diversified.
You gave us samples of these in this economy?
There it is.
Unfortunately, I do have the bourbon Harper starting to set in.
There we go.
When you get older.
There we go. So,
Joe looks like he's had a rough one already. Go ahead, Barry.
He does.
Sorry.
That's how I look when I got on the podcast. And nothing's changed.
should I go 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3 or what do you guys want me to do?
I want to know what
It's
3
your
is
show,
really
man.
bad, quite honestly, because I swear I've had
All
it
right,
before.
we'll start with 3.
So 3 was sent to me by a company, by a distillery. This is a yearly release from Barrel Bourbon. This is New Year for 2021. Not many people have actually had this yet because it is fairly new.
So I've totally
actually
had it
special.
before. I was right then, right? Since it's yearly. And
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody's ever had it.
Yeah. 113.9 proof.
Oh, that is high.
One of the really interesting things about this one too is how many different places the distillate came from to make up this batch. So all of the bourbons that went into creating this specific release came from Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, New York, Texas, Wyoming, and Colorado. So 7 states.
Okay, so for us dummies, so that is the rick houses, like where it's aging.
Yeah.
Or,
So that's where it's been distilled and where
and then they're blending it.
yeah, exactly. So it could be, one barrel
It is.
from
I mean, it is pretty balanced. I will say, even though it's not my favorite, it is a pretty balanced bourbon.
I like this one a lot. It ranked. I gave it a really good score on my live stream last week. I gave it like a 16.5 out of 20 or something like that. So I think it's really good. I think they did a really solid job with the blending on this one. But I do definitely prefer these other two to it. I'll just go 3, 2, 1 now since I started
Sounds
with number
good.
3. So number 2, I'm really excited that you guys got to try this one. This was the first official podcast pick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have to tell you, I've been seeing all the posts. I had a thought on the second one. I was like, I wonder if he gave us Riffmass story.
I did give you guys Riffmass story. This was
y'all did a great job.
I love
good.
this bourbon. I really do. The sticker's ridiculous and
I was going to say,
fun and
the label on this bottle is one of my favorites because I love a Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the dip. I mean, it's like
and I don't know if you guys have seen the
Confession.
box. Go ahead,
confession. I had New Riff early on when
Yeah.
they very first like couple. I don't know what was their first one, like a couple years ago.
2018 was their first release.
Okay, I think I had maybe their first release.
Yeah.
Did not like it. I was not a fan. And like a lot of people I know like really liked it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I just have a weird palate, but I always felt like the early ones, I didn't feel like they knew what they were doing. Like I didn't feel like they had chosen a specific flavor to go with. Like instead of like how Makers has that very distinctive flavor every time. I don't know, but that was just my personal opinion. But this I do really like.
So having talked to the guys from New Riff, they actually it's a really unique excuse me process that they have for creating their whiskeys. They don't always clean their stills in the way that they normally would. On any given day, they might be running, a different mash bill from the day before, or 2 days time. It could be something that is way off the mark and everything. But they're just a very unique company in what they put out, and they also they have 2 different places that they buy their barrels from. So not only is their distillate going to change day to day, release to release, but what it's actually going into. Joe, I think we might have lost Joe for the remainder of the episode. He's just happy. Ric Flair's
That was a
finally on
lot
the podcast.
more than I anticipated.
Did you down all three?
But anyway, they're also aging them in
That's what I have left.
in different style barrels. So there's a great variance in what you're actually going to get from single barrel to single barrel, and also from batch to batch. If they're not as careful about it. But I do have to talk about the box that Riffmass story came in.
Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful.
It's perfect. It's a fragile sticker, or fragile for anybody who
Must be Italian.
Of course.
Did y'all do was this like a limited release?
Yeah, there were only like 230 bottles, and it sold out before it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
how could it not with the look?
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes fantastic.
and
but
it's
on top
like,
of that, I would just, having that on your shelf.
I know, right?
It's an immediate.
I was gonna say, I would
conversation point.
not only buy this bourbon, I would keep that bottle. Like, it's such a good mixture of like classy and ridiculous that I really
absolutely.
like, and it's also like a really good bourbon. So well done.
We spent a lot of time when we were picking it debating between it and another one on whether we should put something out that's going to be a crowd pleaser or whether it's going to be unique. And my camp, the podcast crew, was arguing we should put something out that is different and is not just the stock standard bourbon.
So my answer was actually really good. When I
No, it
first
absolutely was.
tasted it.
I mean, like, as soon as you said that, I was like, he totally hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the conversation that we've been having around it, is that it's clearly bourbon, but it's got a little something extra to it. It's just a little bit different.
And I have to tell people, like, I drink bourbon, like I drink a lot of bourbon, but
Hey, me too.
not like to the point where I like can decide which one is which. So the fact that you were able to make it that distinctive for a casual bourbon drinker, excellent choice.
Oh, I got chills. I got the
you
Paula
go.
Abdul goosebumps.
we had to make up for completely just taking over your
Derailing.
podcast with our stories. So
No, it's fine.
Ryan need to make you say something nice.
I got another great tell me I'm wrong idea. Worst American Idol judge panel.
Oh
Ooh.
yes,
I'm writing
write that one down.
I've never even watched American Idol, but I'm in for that.
You didn't even watch the Kelly Clarkson season?
That was the
the
first
first
one,
one.
wasn't it? Yeah.
That was the first song of the girl I dated in high school, though. Like a moment like this, that was our song.
A moment like this was your song.
Yeah, when the first like actual girlfriend I ever had.
Well, that's
Okay.
interesting.
Well, now I'm
And the
well, now I'm
showstopper.
sad. Now I'm sad that you gave us a bourbon that's all I'm ever gonna get. I have to really enjoy it now.
Well, I also
Yeah,
gave you another one that
unfortunately,
you're.
Ryan completely
true.
killed his second sample, so it's all gone.
Well, I also gave you one that you're also never going to get unless you buy one from a friend or on secondary. Number one was Heaven Hill 6-year Bottled and Bond, which used to be on the shelf for $12 a bottle. And was, I mean, it's 100 proof, 6 years old. As soon as Heaven Hill kind of caught wind that it was, growing in popularity, they took it off the market, introduced a 7-year-old version of it for the national market. And this was only available in Kentucky, by the way. But the 7-year-old is now available mostly anywhere in the United States and is at $40 a bottle.
Oh,
So
I was gonna say I've
quite a
had
bit
some
of
Heaven
markup.
Hill in the past and never been my favorite, but I personally, I enjoyed the first sample.
I think we all ranked it as the best, didn't
Yeah. I would have said 1, 3, 2, but now, I more and more after drinking more of 3, I think I'd go more 2. And I would probably pick 2 in a store regardless, just because the what
yeah.
it is, the bottle.
Because the
we?
bottle.
Yeah, it's awesome.
it's the best. It's the
Like-
best, like, limited, like, local release. I feel
I
like.
love that movie anyway.
Oh,
so like
yeah.
that just
Yeah. Perfect timing, perfect bottle. You all should be celebrating.
I also feel like it drinks like a winter bourbon. Cause
Yeah,
like,
it definitely does.
I feel like I definitely drink bourbon differently depending on the season. Because like in the summer, like I'm much more likely to stick with my Bullet or maybe even like a Makers or something.
Yeah.
But in the winter, I'm more like the Four Roses and the Woodfords. The darker stuff.
See, I still will, of course, go. I mean, with my standard Turkey 101 throughout the year, but like
101.
in the summer months, I might grab Old Granddad 114 or Wild Turkey Rare Breed or something like that and put it over ice. And I don't like a whole lot of ice with my bourbon. Like
Same.
watered down bourbon is one of the worst flavors.
Yeah.
I
It
struggle.
starts to taste closer and closer like piss.
just
Brian,
slowly.
have you tasted a lot of piss?
Oh no!
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh,
Oh,
Lord.
the good-natured
never-
ribbing of
never-
the "Tell Me I'm Wrong" boys.
Listen, I was gonna say
Good-natured most of the time.
I enjoy like an occasional rock, but I need if it's gonna get watered down, like
I was a huge rock fan.
we're not talking about wrestling anymore, Jeff.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, I was gonna say I'm typically a straight. Like I like my bourbon straight, so
Yeah.
I enjoy all three of these. They're fantastic.
I prefer on the rocks, but I usually do a very small pour so it doesn't get watered down. I just
No,
like to
that's
kind of cool it off a little bit. So I literally put maybe like just a finger's worth amount in there, and I'd rather pour more. Now, like at a restaurant, obviously you can't, or a bar, you can't control that.
Right,
But
yeah.
like if I'm at home, I'll pour a little bit, but put it in like with a rock ice ball, and then pour a little bit more. That's why it's nice to have like, I keep basil. It's one of my favorites in a decanter. I'll just like, if I'm sitting on the couch watching a late night football game or wrestling or whatever, I'll just bring the decanter beside me and just add a little bit, drink it, add a little bit, drink it. So it just kind of takes that like warm bite off of it.
The classic
doesn't get
alcoholic
watered down.
approach.
Joe,
Yeah, you've
Joe,
really,
are
you've
are you
really
saying
got
that
to
you're-
take that bite off of Basil Hayden. I mean,
I was gonna say, are you suggesting that Basil Hayden's on the rock is a good choice here? Is that your
You
expert
walked
opinion?
straight into it.
What?
I don't think he's aware of
I
the
think
joke.
all of you all, I when it came through my headphones, all of you all were talking at the same time, so I didn't really wasn't able to process what you said.
it's fine. We can leave it anyway.
Perry
Yeah,
is a big fan of Basil Hayden on the rocks. Is what
I'm
we're
really
getting at.
not, especially with a splash of water. It's just mwah, chef's kiss. Just
well,
I used to be a strictly neat bourbon drinker, but lately I have been doing 1 to 2 ice cubes depending on the pour, and just letting it cool down a little bit. Just depends. But yeah, I actually don't. All kidding aside, I actually like Joe's approach of cool it down and just
no,
drink
I
it quick.
agree. I think that if you're going to chill your bourbon, I think that that's one of the better ways to do it. I think that the shoot, what are they called? Oh, like the whiskey stones, like
Yeah.
they suck. I hate those.
Yeah.
I think they make the bourbon taste terrible.
It's a
And-
popular Christmas gift, like stocking stuffer for parents to get anybody who's had a sip of bourbon. They're like, oh, I remember that one time you had some bourbon when we went out to a restaurant. Here are some metal cubes you can put in it. It just never works out.
Josh, your parents got you some whiskey stones, didn't they?
They did.
Listen, that's one of Brookstone's finest right there.
That's true. That's true. We were talking about Brookstone earlier. You
It's
can
right.
go there for all your metal ice cube needs.
It's right next to the sensual blanket. Anyway,
Moisture resistant central blanket.
yeah, that thing.
we lost
that
Joe.
wonderful thing.
We have lots, Jim.
Hey guys, I've really enjoyed having you all on this week.
I've enjoyed being on, and I hope
Yeah.
we didn't derail things too much. with
No,
our-
I think
our
this is exactly what I was expecting.
Just let us know the difference in your Patreon from last month to this month, and we'll help you out.
Your listeners are either going to love this or hate
It's going to be the
this, I feel
least
like.
downloaded episode of all time.
If we do that, I apologize.
Next to my very first episode.
Well, just put new Riffmass blind in there in the title or
Oh,
something,
yeah.
and
It'll
then
pop
that'll
up
draw
no
people
matter
in.
what.
Yeah. Oh, there
And
we
they'll
go.
be like, "Oh, we got to hear
there we
this."
go. Yeah.
We give you full permission to not use our name at all. You can even pretend we're Swan. Just three versions of him.
I'm just
And,
I'm gonna have to type out all of the audio into a text to voice generator, And just,
Yeah, it's just like, well, Swan couldn't be here, but he actually provided a transcript of what he was going to say. We have loaded it in, and honestly,
that's so much work.
surprisingly, it might be less confusing than listening to
He
all of us
couldn't
tell
be here,
stories.
but I did find 3 idiots off the street that were willing to talk to me for an hour and a half.
And we all have
But
coronavirus
genuinely-
now.
Yeah, that was how he got us. He poisoned us with the bourbon.
It's like we've got to quarantine
Genuinely-
together and make content for my podcast.
There we go. Hey, we're
Genuinely, Perry, thank you so much for having us.
absolutely,
This is
yeah,
a blast.
We're not
And we
quite
always
finished
love-
just yet because we do have tips and
I thought we
bits,
were wrapping up.
which is our
that's
recommendation
right.
segment. It doesn't have to be bourbon related. Usually, it's what you've been watching or listening to or reading or whatever recently. So whoever wants to go first, by all means.
I think we can just assume Ryan's going to go first, so we'll let him hit lead off.
I'll go.
I was
first.
actually
I'll go first.
legitimately sitting here thinking, okay, just let somebody else talk first.
I'll go first.
Go, Joe.
So my wife and I just finished season 1 of
Homeland?
holy crap, what's the name of it? No, Homeland. Yeah, no. Westworld.
Josh is always
Westworld. We just finished season 1 of Westworld, and we want to start season 2 and 3 soon. Haven't started The Mandalorian yet. That's the next thing on my list. I'm really into puzzles right now. That's my winter hobby. So I just finished my second one, and I'm actually,
I love that
for y'all
so much.
listening, my family got me a puzzle of our Tell Me I'm Wrong photo. It's very cool.
It's
So
super
that's the
awesome.
next one I'm going to be starting. But that's kind of what I'm into now. And then we try to watch a Christmas movie every chance we get.
Joe's going into puzzle and soup mode for winter.
Hey, listen, that's the
Well,
best way to spend
I-
your winter.
I don't
we
ha- I
literally
don't
have a
currently
puzzle
have
on
a
our table and had soup tonight. So
I don't currently have a wood shop to go work in, so I got to find something else to occupy my time in right now.
There you go.
all right, I will give a recommendation. This is not anything groundbreaking, but the Crown on Netflix is amazing. And I'm not a history person. I actually don't even, before this, didn't really care too much about the royal family. The acting is
How dare
superb. The cinematography is unbelievable. It's a beautiful show. Definitely go and watch The Crown on Netflix. There's only like 4 seasons or something, but it's very good. And if anybody wants any D&D show recommendations, you can hit me up on Twitter. I won't bore you with that on this show.
No. What do you listen to? Like D&D is for nerds or another D&D podcast?
I'm a big Critical Role fan.
Okay.
So I'm always up to date on the latest Critical Role stuff. Plus, the classic McElroy's The Adventure Zone. as
He
well.
lost me there,
yeah,
but that's okay.
I was going to say, our podcast was like every other podcast that has been made in the last couple years, was birthed out of us all playing D&D together. So
It's true.
as far as my recommendations go, this winter, me and my girlfriend has been spending a lot of time I have a record room in my house because I'm, an elitist jerk. And
He's bougie.
Yeah, I'm bougie. I get made
I have
fun
a
of
whole
for it all the
studio
time.
that houses my recording equipment and my whiskey.
Hey,
I mean, it's
Listen.
my garage, but it's also an entire
well,
room.
my record room is also where I
Studio.
keep my whiskey. So, hey. So we've been listening to a lot of records, and lately the new Chris Stapleton record, Starting Over.
Dadgummit, I still have not listened to that yet.
It's phenomenal.
There's the dadgummit.
I am a big Chris Stapleton fan, love him. But this most recent record I think is better than anything else he has released.
Wow.
Except for maybe some Still Driver stuff. But it's phenomenal. It's eclectic. It's different. I absolutely love it.
Would you say it's better than Sturgill's Bluegrass album?
Ooh.
Well, that one's tough. I haven't gotten that on vinyl yet, so I can't testify to it. I've got that on order at CD Central here in Lexington. Shout out to CD Central. And I'm waiting on that to come in before I give my expert opinion. But I got it in a special colorway that is John Deere green and yellow, so I'm excited to see that once
Oh,
again.
heck yes.
How long do you think it's been Josh has been waiting for an opportunity where he can say his expert opinion when it comes to vinyl
Yeah, I don't
records?
get to do this on
He's
my
been
podcast.
trying to work that into a conversation for years just so he could say, well, according to my expert opinion.
Look,
I was actually going to say, I mean, joking aside, recommendations from Josh are actually usually very good. He has a good stamp of approval. So I would, anything Josh
you're a
recommends
snob.
is usually pretty good.
So there's that on the music side. As far as other things go, been drinking a lot of coffee this winter. Love that. Other than some fine spirits like bourbon, coffee is my drink of choice. And so my go-to here in Lexington is a cup of Commonwealth and Magic Beans. Love them. They're the absolute best. Once we get through this pandemic, you will find me there on a Saturday morning reading a book. Come say hi.
Josh has been a big Brood fan lately.
We're not going to go there on this
We're
podcast.
not opening it.
But beyond that, there's actually a roaster out of Birmingham, Alabama that my girlfriend has introduced me to. She went to school down there, and it's called O. Henry's, and their Christmas blend. I'm usually not a coffee blend kind of guy, but their Christmas blend is phenomenal, and it pairs perfectly with Buffalo Trace bourbon cream. Like, it is a marriage made in heaven. So go on their website and order that coffee, mix with some bourbon cream, and enjoy your Christmas season.
Have y'all had Smoking Aces yet? Local?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say Smoking Aces and Jefferson Street Coffee are among the best. And their branding. Like, if you go look up Smoking Aces, it is phenomenal. Like, I know Perry is a graphic designer, does some graphic design work. I also work in a related field, although I let other people do the actual creating. But we both appreciate some good branding, and it's the best.
Smoking Aces is one of my favorite local places, and not just because David Barnes, the guy who founded it, is a friend of mine and has been on the show before, way back when. But yeah, go drink local coffee, please.
It's also a great movie.
I'm a big
Josh,
Lexington
Joe is
coffee,
still
just
here
classic,
too. Sorry.
just classic Lexington
Well, I
coffee.
mean,
and
do you want me
tea
to interrupt
fan.
you and say it? I mean, I like that movie. Jeremy Piven, Ben Affleck, Alicia Keys, Ryan Reynolds, Ray Liotta,
Star-studded.
Andy Garcia.
JMDB
it's
Reach
over
the point
here.
of the show
Yes.
where Joe just lists actors' names.
For 30 minutes. There's a guy.
Listen,
there's
I'd
a guy
listen to
who's
it.
unmiked on the opposite side of the room, going, "What about what about Goodfellas?"
There's a podcast. Yeah, there's
Just
our
like
next episode.
like a one-off, like good action movie. That one's pretty fun.
Joe, what is the cast of Lucky Number 11? Can you please hit me with that?
Josh Hartnett, Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, Sir Ben Kingsley. Let's see who else is in it. Oh, what's her name? Lucy.
Lucy Liu?
Yeah, I think it's Lucy.
Okay,
Liu.
now
I
do
think she's
Mr.
in
and
it.
Mrs. Smooth.
Ben Affleck, or not Ben Affleck, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. That's all I know from that movie. But most action movies, I could probably So this was a thing we used to play in college, or not in college, high school. If you give me a situation, I bet I can tell you a movie that situation's been.
What
in.
about The Ringer?
I know Johnny Knoxville was in the movie. Can you name another actor from that movie?
No, not Johnny Knox. Oh, there was the one
didn't
guy
think
who was
so.
in
Isn't,
Galaxy Quest that's in that movie too.
Isn't John Hader in it? Like the Napoleon
Is he
Dynamite
in
guy?
that movie?
John Heater?
No, I don't
John
think
Heater?
he's in that
Am I
movie. I
imagining
think
that?
that movie came too early for him.
No, you're thinking of Benchwarmers,
Oh.
Yeah, he's in Benchwarmers.
which was in that
Spade.
same genre of really non-PC movies that came out in the
Really
Problematic
mid-odds.
I
comedies
was
of
gonna
the
say,
late-
the early 2000s
Man,
were
you
like
watch those movies and you're like, how did we say what we
There was
said?
like a weird time where they made all these terrible movies that they convinced teenagers were really good.
You were talking about having unopened movies. I have 3 copies of Pineapple Express, all unopened. I've never even seen that movie, and I have no idea how I got
I've got
them.
a more embarrassing one for you. I own 2 copies on DVD and 1 digital copy of Fever Pitch, the Jimmy Fallon, Drew Barrymore
That's a
baseball-related
good movie.
comedy.
That's about the
I love
Boston
it.
Red Sox.
That's why I have 3 copies of it.
You know what Jimmy Fallon movie I was wanting to watch the other day? I want to watch Taxi.
That's the only other
Queen
Jimmy
Is
Fallon
that the
film.
movie with Queen Latifah?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
good.
Golly,
and she
man.
like
It's
has a
actually
taxi
pretty
cab
funny.
that converts into like a stock car. It's awesome.
That is. I can't.
I thought for
I
the
can't
longest
believe
time it
that's
was
a real
Tom Brady's
movie.
wife that was the bad person in that movie, but it's not her.
The more time you spend with Joe, the more you realize his media tastes are just very wild and
Yeah,
varied.
we've talked about doing an episode where we just go through like his DVD shelf.
What about So that top level right there.
This new character is definitely going to make an appearance on Tell Me I'm Wrong.
That's all TV episodes.
If it needs
And
to
then
be
down
me, I can
here-
do it too. So
What about the
nothing but DVDs.
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys that you got on the shelf?
You say that, but when we had our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episode, I had a Tetradome with
That
me
is true.
during the
Joe did have a
recording.
Tetradome.
That's
And
why I said
back
it.
here where all these clothes are is
Yeah,
a
that's where
DVD
your
case
that's-
full of 100 DVDs.
I was going to say that's your treadmill is what you're pointing at.
Well, it's behind the treadmill. See it?
Okay.
At
I
one point,
see.
I had over 400 DVDs.
wow.
Yeah, he
I got rid of a
he
lot.
sold them all to
Cinephile
Perry
over
and
here.
Lucy.
Yeah, they're still in Perry's car.
Yeah, if you
For-
want
for a
to lump
tax write-off.
in your Pineapple Express DVDs with my set of
At
That's
one
what I was
point,
thinking. We need to have a giveaway.
we can
of
have the worst
unopened
yard sale
DVDs.
ever.
At one point, I really did have 3 copies of Pineapple Express, and I've never actually seen that movie, so I don't know how I
All
got
right,
it.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. At some point, we need to have a giveaway, and we'll call it the worst giveaway ever. And we'll have people enter
and a sock that's been dunked in a bucket
3
of liquid.
copies of Pineapple Express and the first season of Breaking Bad, all signed.
Much
by
like
nobody
Perry,
from
I
the
had a bunch
cast.
of movies on my shelves that were unopened, and I could not
I
understand
could
why I
sign
had
Robert
these
Downey
movies
Jr.'s name.
of all these unopened movies, but I had a ton of unopened movies on my shelf at one point, and I don't remember where I got them.
Joe's just collecting DVDs as he
Well, and that's my
wanders
wife
through
eventually like put a hand put stomp on because I used to just go to Target and be like, I'm just gonna buy these DVDs and buy like 3 or 4.
just bargain barrel diving.
Well, that $5 bin was always like awesome 90s action movies that you loved, like Con Air, which was a episode winner. Thank you.
Yeah, we did talk about that on the podcast too.
That's true.
We did make a Con Air musical.
I will
The Suckies-
I will go ahead and recommend my thing for tips and bits, and then we'll go ahead and start to wrap up the show. Maybe.
Finally,
20 minutes later.
I think I'm about 5 years behind on this guy, but for whatever reason today, I just went down the rabbit hole of Gus Johnson on YouTube. Have you guys ever seen any of his videos?
I have not.
I do not
Go
know who
look
this
up
is.
his Paul Simon recording. Me and Julio video. It's good stuff. I mean, he's just a bizarre comedic genius. He has a character called Indiana Jones.
That already
There's one where he goes home to his mom who lives in the Midwest and just berates her for the way that they've been taking care of the farm for no reason at all while he drinks Miller Lite the entire time. It's
hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
no, but it's a tall boy and he keeps just spilling it everywhere.
oh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
But he's
drink tall
so
boys.
good. One of my favorite sketches that he does is pranking women by not engaging with them and keeping a wide distance at the beach. And like the video starts out, I mean, it's like 2 minutes long, but it starts out with him saying like basically that, like that's what he's going to do. And then it cuts to the beach and there's like a zoomed in shot of like 3 women standing together and then just an insane pan down the beach, probably like a football field away, of him just standing there. And like it's that.
I'm looking
for, like,
at a
2
video
minutes.
right now called "How They Made Yu-Gi-Oh Cards," where he's
Oh my
wearing
gosh,
an
that
orange
video's so good.
cowboy hat and like a I can't tell what's going on with the shirt, but it looks like kind of a wet. It looks like he has a bolo tie on.
No,
maybe?
he looks like what Marty McFly thought that they wore in the Old West and Back to the Future 3.
Yeah. Regardless, once we're done recording this evening, I'm gonna have to turn this one on. So
There are some real gems in his catalog.
Have you all ever heard of Sweet Tea Films on YouTube? It's by his name called Tavin Dillard.
I have not.
I haven't either.
He's like a offshoot of Rhett and Link. If you guys like Rhett and Link,
Oh yeah,
Love
man.
Red.
he's like this like redneck guy that tries to describe how they do things, and it's very funny. And I've actually heard like the real guy in real life, and he's like just like this normal dude, but he's like, yeah, I got a Coca-Cola at the trailer park yesterday. I mean, I would definitely recommend Sweet Tea Films. They are very funny.
Maybe I have heard of him before. I don't- No, I'm thinking of the guy
He-
who did
he
like
was-
Southern Grandma videos that were real
Yeah.
popular. couple of years ago. But anyway, Gus Johnson, he's really funny. I was taking calls today and watching his videos in between calls, and I was crying laughing as I was getting a call in, and I was like having to compose myself before the 40 seconds were up for when the call would be rejected. So anyway, hey, first off, thank you guys so much again for being on this week's episode. This was a heck of a lot of fun. I needed a little bit of a break from the news cycle and from what we normally do on the podcast to bring some friends on and drink some bourbon and have some story time, and hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime soon, but in person, and you guys can raid my my bourbon cabinet and pull some.
I would gladly do that.
I know you would.
Anytime you need to come over and drink yourself, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Once we get through this, just invite us over. We'll gladly take some samples.
All good. I'm happy to do it. Hey, where can people find you all on social media? Where can they find the podcast, and how can they support you guys in the future as well?
Well, we've lost Joe. He's laughing. I think.
Well, we talked about this last week about my social media name and how awful it was.
That's true. He does have a terrible social media name. You'll have to listen to, I think it's next week's episode.
Okay. Next week's.
Is it next week's? Oh.
Yeah, it's next week's. But regardless, you can find us at a very simple social media handle, which is TMIW Pod. That's for Tell Me I'm Wrong. That's our podcast. You can also head over to TMIWpod.com to check us out there. If you like ridiculous debates that nobody would ask, like, which NFL quarterback would you prefer to give you the sex talk, or
which Disney princess would make the best serial killer?
Princess would make the best serial killer?
You guys haven't even mentioned the most relevant one. I don't know if you all saw today, but the day they released a Mario Lopez Colonel Sanders movie.
What is up with that?
Well, we basically
First off,
wrote
he
a better
looks
version.
terrible. And I think we may have grounds for a lawsuit, boys.
I put on our Instagram that they need to watch out on the IP.
Yeah,
that is our IP.
We are
All they need to do
notoriously
is
litigious.
I don't really need money. If they could just buy some really good equipment, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could settle for $1,500 and I'd be happy.
Well, I think $1,500 a piece. No, I think we should be. I think let's say $3,000 a piece. We could all buy a nice MacBook and recording equipment and call
That's
it a day.
perfect. But regardless,
I think
So
they'd be pretty
lifetime,
happy
we're
to settle
coming
for
for you.
$9,000.
if you like ridiculous debates, if you like a slightly more sober version of us on telling stories and having fun, you can head over there, subscribe, listen. We think you'll enjoy it. We've got an episode with Perry. That is episode 20, Meat Stick on the Side, where we make ridiculous bourbon, or not exclusively bourbon, but ridiculous cocktails and make him decide which one would actually be palatable. So check it out. Join us. We'd love to have you. And we are glad we were able to come here and enjoy some fine spirits with Perry.
I still, honestly would have had any 3 of those cocktails.
I still think we should try to get together.
He's
and
a
make
little
them.
kind on that.
No.
But
I would
genuinely-
try all 3 of those cocktails.
Ryan's would be the hardest to make just to get.
I'd try
splitting.
2. I don't think I could try Joe's.
You say that, but I honestly think mine would be the best tasting of the group.
No.
I think what you are assuming is like
We're not
protein.
doing this.
We're not doing this on
protein
Perry's
powder, like cheap protein powder.
If
Good
you
protein powder
listeners
is good.
enjoyed this episode of this is my bourbon podcast, you'll probably enjoy our show, because this is kind of what we do. We just kind of talk and hang out and have fun. We are a very lighthearted show. Listen, if Perry likes us, then clearly
And
you're
let
gonna
me
like
let me
us.
tell you too.
Come check
I
us
was
out.
telling these guys before we started recording. Y'all are 30 episodes in, and I have enjoyed every single minute that I have listened to the show. I mean, what at this point, hours out of
Perry,
my
who
life
would
that
you
I'll never
pick,
get back.
Creed or Nickelback?
But I have legitimately looked forward to every episode coming out each week. Enjoyed getting to kind of reconnect with Ryan in some way, kind of continue a almost distant cousin relationship with Josh that I feel like we have, and then Joe's. Well, I just met Joe, I guess. So
And you're already apologizing to him. What a
Lucky
mistake.
you.
I am apologizing because I have a guilty conscience. Anyway. Thank you all so much for listening to this week's episode. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am at PureWriter1492. The show itself is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can give us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes podcast app. We will read any of those reviews out on air. We got just a wonderful review on Podbean, too, a few weeks back about how we needed to focus. So I hope that guy's super happy with how this episode went.
He is dying.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's pulling his hair out.
We are notorious for being just overly focused on our episodes.
You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. If you have questions or comments, you can send them to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. If you'd like to become a part of our Facebook group, you can head to facebook.com, search for This Is My Bourbon Group, and we will get you in there. That's where we ask people for questions for our Patreon pregame chats. Normally, this week, it was basically just the four of us riffing around and having a good time and talking about a dumb list from Uprocks.
It was basically more of what you heard, but before we had gotten into the bourbon,
exactly.
It's just uncensored.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth that. It's going to be worth whatever that paywall is.
$5 a month. So I feel like it's worth it. It's worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you get
Definitely worth
just
it.
go get this episode and then bail.
You only have to pay for 1 month, and if you search,
I got what I
you'll be
wanted.
able to find a promo code.
I also go live on YouTube every Thursday night at 8 p.m. It's youtube.com/This Is My Bourbon Podcast, where I usually review stuff or just hang out, have some chats with the viewers. And then last but not least, speaking of Patreons, patreon.com/My Bourbon Podcast for as little as $1 a month. And as we said, for as little as $5 a month, that is where you get all the bonus content like the pregame chats. And as we were saying before, too, the last call is coming back after the first of the year, so stay tuned for that. That's one of my favorite things I get to do every week, is have a ridiculous riff with Swan, and we go to a bar.
If you ever need a bartender to come on for that, we do have a couple characters we could pitch for you.
Oh, a trio of bartenders would be a great one to have in the future.
A 3-headed bartender.
You have to have the demon.
We also have some characters we could bring on. We have our dirty Santa that was on our last episode. We have the demon.
Oh, the demon's one of my favorites.
A great bartender.
We have Josh.
Yeah, I'm just a character in and of itself.
Just Josh. He just makes really good cocktails.
There we go.
Really good cocktails and great vinyl recommendations.
He's a great beer wench.
That's a
great bartender. Hey, so next week we are actually going to be reviewing the Castle and Key Restoration Rye. So tune in for that. Once again, go check out
listening.
Tell Me I'm Wrong. Oh, thanks, Ryan. Go follow these guys on social media. Great podcast, one of my favorites at this time of recording. Maybe the week after I'm going to sour on them. I don't know. Who's to say?
Listen, I wouldn't blame you after this.
We will see you all next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.